All right, kids, I got a question. Any of you guys know any interesting facts, maybe about a city or a country? Yeah? No? Well, I know a couple interesting facts about some countries. Did you guys know that Australia actually has the most poisonous animals that live there? They have 66 of them. It's crazy. That's a lot of poisonous animals. But I also know which country has the most kids. But can you guys guess which country that is? No, it's not the US. No, it's not even China, crazy enough. It's actually India. India has the most kids. And today we're going to be learning about a boy named Ringu who lived in India. And the people there, Ringu included, worshiped evil spirits. In fact, they believed in them and worshiped them and tried to please them every single day. Now, one day, Ringu, his mother and father, and brother Batu were heading to the village to the bazaar. Now, a bazaar is like a market. And they were heading to this one because it was the last one before the festival of the oxen. And there were going to be a lot of people there. But Ringu was most excited about it because today he was going to get to drive the ox cart. And he wanted to show off to his family because he was also going to be racing in the festival of the oxen. So he told his oxen to get going, and they took off down the road. Now, as they got closer to the village, Batu wanted to hurry, so he told Ringu to have them go faster. So I want everybody to stand up. We're actually going to run with the oxen, okay? So everybody stand up, and we're going to run in place, okay? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Run in place as fast as you can. Good job. You guys can sit down. Now, as they got closer to the village, they got off the cart and tied the oxen to the cart and started to wander into the village where all of the shops and stuff were set up for the bazaar. Now, as they were going in, Batu was looking around, and all of a sudden he heard a scream of pain. He turned around and saw Ringu holding his foot. He had stepped on a huge thorn. Can you guys see that thorn in his foot? Look how big that is. It hurt so bad. Ringu almost started crying as he pulled it out of his heel and limped towards his family to catch up. But as they were wandering around through the market, Ringu forgot about his foot. In fact, he just saw all of the amazing things that were there and wished they had the money to buy them all. But they didn't. And as they passed by one of the booths, Ringu reached up and grabbed a banana and put it into his pocket. He thought, well, I know stealing's wrong, but everybody steals now and then, right? Well, as they kept walking, Batu and Ringu began to hear this beautiful music playing, and they wanted to see where it was coming from. So they started weaving in and out of the crowd, trying to go where the music was. But all of a sudden, Ringu ran into somebody, and papers flew everywhere. Ringu was afraid that because he caused this person to spill all those paper, they were going to be mad at him. So he tried to run away, but this person grabbed him. And when he looked around, he saw that it was a missionary. This person was not like them. They had fair skin, and they were taller than him. And this missionary he had heard about. This was a missionary named Grub Sahib, who had come to tell the people there about this one true God, and that this God was more powerful than the evil spirits. Well, the missionary, he picked up all those papers that had been thrown everywhere and gave one to Batu and Ringu and told them that he had come to tell them about the one true God. And on this paper, there were words from God, who sent his only son to die on the cross to take the punishment for their sin. And he had the power to not only free them from the evil spirits, but to also change them. Because word up, God can change me. That's right, God can change you. He can change anybody, including Ringu. But Ringu and Batu, they were too focused on trying to find the music to really listen hard to what the missionary was saying. So they kept on going, trying to find where the music was. And they came to a man who was playing this strange box. But that's where the music was coming from. And they had never heard anything more beautiful than what was coming out of that box. But then the man stopped and stood up and started to talk. And he said, "My name is Pandu, And I used to be just like you. I used to worship the evil spirits. And I also used to worship the oxen and celebrate them on the festival that you will in a few days. But then I met the one true God who is more powerful than the evil spirits and commands us to worship no other gods but him. Well, as Pandu was talking, Batu reached over and pulled on Ringu's shirt and said, we need to leave. We shouldn't hear this. The evil spirits are going to get mad at us. So they left. But Ringu wondered if what they had been talking about was true. And he took that paper that had the words of God on it and put it in his turban to think and maybe learn to read later. Well, the next day, Ringu woke up to the sound of drums. It was the festival of the oxen was starting. But when Ringu looked at his foot, it was not any better. In fact, his foot was getting worse. It was red and swollen, and as he tried to walk on it, it hurt so bad. He limped out onto their porch and sat down on the rope bed that was out on there. And he almost started crying, thinking about how the evil spirits must be angry with him. He must have done something wrong. And because of this, they're keeping him from racing. But he wanted to because he wants to make his father proud. He almost started crying, and his mother came and saw Ringu and saw his foot and went and got his father. And when they saw his foot, they knew what they had to do. Now, when you guys get hurt or you're sick, what do your parents normally do? Yeah, they'll take you to a doctor, or they'll give you medicine, or if it's really bad, they'll take you to the hospital, right? Well, Ringu's family didn't do any of that. Because you see, they had somebody in their village that they believed had power or magic that could heal any sickness. And they called him a witch doctor. Now, they went and got the witch doctor, and Ringu was scared of him, and Batu came out, and he was pretty scared of him too. Because when the witch doctor came, he looked scary. He was bent over, and he had all these wooden beads around his neck and this rope, and he had this piece of hair that was out of his turban. He was scary. And then when he came closer and saw Ringu's foot, he began to chant and tie a rope around his foot. This rope was similar to the ones that all the people wore around their necks, which were supposed to keep the evil spirits away. Now, after he had finished chanting and tying the rope around his ankle, he left after being paid. But would everything that he did work? Well, Ringu had to race that day, and he hoped that it would work. But when he stood up to go get his oxen, his foot hurt even more. He had to pretend to not be hurt, though. He forced himself not to walk with a limp as he went and got the oxen. And as he was heading towards the starting line, too, he just had to grit his teeth and smile and wave as he headed towards the starting line. Even though his foot hurt so bad, he wanted to win the race even more. Well, he held on to the reins, waiting for the race to start. And then the starting signal went off, and all of the racers were going. Ringu's arms were almost jerked out of his sockets as his oxen pulled him forward. He was going so fast. He was passing teams left and right. He could hear the cheers of the people. Well, Ringu, he was so excited. He was doing so well. But all of a sudden, he tripped. But his oxen were going so fast that they pulled him from falling all the way to the ground. They pulled him up, and he kept going. He was screaming at his oxen to go, most half out of pain because of his foot, but the other half out of excitement because he was so close to the team in front. With one last burst of speed and yelling at his oxen, they pulled ahead and crossed the finish line first. Ringu and his team had won. He was so excited. He looked into the crowd to see his father smiling at him. As Ringu's father came up and put his hand on his shoulder, congratulating him for how well he had run the race and how proud of him he was. But when he saw Ringu's foot, he told Ringu that they had to call the witch doctor again because they'd obviously made the evil spirits angry with them. So they had to call the witch doctor again. Well, the witch doctor came quickly, and when he got close to Ringu to see that his foot was not better, he grabbed Ringu and pulled him close and blew into his ear multiple times, which hurt. But Ringu thought, well, this is supposed to get the evil spirits out. It's obviously supposed to help. But he didn't stop there. The witch doctor then took out this bottle that had some liquid in it and poured it over Ringu's foot, and then a pouch with powder that he sprinkled on the liquid and then rubbed it into Ringu's heel, and Ringu screamed in pain. The witch doctor said, good, scream louder. That'll scare the evil spirits away. Ringu, as the witch doctor started to chant again, began to cry. The evil spirits are never satisfied. Would this help Ringu? Well, the next morning when Ringu woke up, everything the witch doctor had done didn't help. In fact, Ringu's foot was even worse. Now the pain was no longer in his heel, it was in his leg, and he was feverish, and he had a headache. He pulled himself out onto the rope bed that was on his porch and just laid there. While he was laying there, he saw a crowd of people coming, and in the front was the missionary, Grub Sahib and Pandu. They came and were asking his father for permission to show slides in the village or pictures. Well, Ringu's father wasn't really listening. He was more concerned about his son and said to the missionary that, could you come help my son? His foot is hurt, and the witch doctor just doesn't seem to have any power these days. Could you please help? Well, the missionary came over and sat down next to Ringu and looked at his foot and said, yes, I can help. So he asked for Ringu's mother to go get him a pan full of water, which she did very quickly. And when she brought it to him, he took out this white powder and poured it in and mixed it up and asked Ringu to put his foot in, which Ringu was scared to do. And Ringu's father told the missionary, no, he can't. The evil spirits that are in the water, they'll go into his foot and make it worse. But Grub Sahib said, no, it's medicine that's in the water, and it'll help make his foot better. Please, just let him soak it for a little bit. Well, Ringu's father finally gave the okay, and Ringu, he put his foot on top of the water, but he was still scared to put it in, and the missionary just grabbed his leg and pushed it down in. But then he did something that Ringu wasn't expecting. He asked if he could pray to the one true God to help heal his foot. So he bowed his head, and Ringu followed and copied him, but then looked up to see what he would do. And the missionary, Grub Sahib, prayed that the one true God would keep his family safe and that he would heal Ringu's foot. Ringu wondered if this was true, if the one true God this missionary was talking to would heal his foot. He was going to wait and see. Well, after the missionary had finished, he gave the powder to Ringu's family and told them to soak his foot more, and then it would get better. And then they left to go to other villages. But Ringu's father was still scared that the evil spirits would go into Ringu's foot. But that surprised Ringu, because as he soaked his foot, it felt better. His headache went away. The pain in his leg left. But Ringu's father wouldn't let him do it again. And the next day, Ringu felt horrible again. He went out to the porch where his mother was and begged his mother, please, mother, let me soak my foot. Like the missionary said, he said that if I don't, I might get even sicker, or I might even die. Ringu was afraid that he wouldn't get well, but he was more afraid because he wanted to go to school, to learn to read so he could read the words of God and see if what this missionary said was true. Well, Ringu's mother talked to Ringu's father, and they finally agreed to let him soak his foot, which he did for a few days. And at the end of him soaking his foot, he was able to walk without it hurting. Ringu was so excited because now he would be able to go to school, so he could read the words of God. He was so excited on the day that he was able to go. He told Batu that he was bringing the paper with him. And Batu looked at him and said, "Are you sure you should bring that?" But Ringu was bringing it anyway. He was so excited to finally be able to learn to read the words of God. Well, when the boys arrived at the schoolhouse, all of them sat on the hard dirt floor cross-legged, waiting for the teacher to come in. And when he did, they all stood up and saluted him. And when he made his way to the front, Ringu sat back down, excited that he would finally be able to read. But then the teacher started saying, "Ek, do, teen, par, pandech," which are numbers. The teacher was teaching numbers, not letters, not how to read. Ringu was so disappointed, but all of the boys repeated back to the teacher and began working on their numbers. Well, as Ringu was working, the teacher was walking up and down the aisle looking at the boys' work. And as he was passing Ringu, the teacher looked over and saw a piece of paper sticking out of Ringu's turban. He said, "What's this?" as he snatched it out of his turban. And Ringu ducked because he thought the teacher was going to hit him. The teacher took the paper and put it in his pocket as he continued back to the front of the room. And Ringu was scared. He was nervous. What's the teacher going to do? His hands started to sweat. He couldn't think about the numbers anymore. He was more concerned about the teacher. As he watched the teacher take the paper out and start to read it, his heart began to beat faster. The teacher, as he finished, crumpled it up and threw it on the ground and said, "Ringu, come here!" Ringu was scared. He slowly got up and forced himself to walk to the front of the classroom. He was afraid. What would the teacher do to him? Would the teacher hurt him? Would he hit him? What if the teacher told his parents what was on that paper? What would happen? Well, you're going to have to come back tomorrow to find out.